Sandra. I'm the VP of Customers at Horizon 3. Sorry, Snehal was not able to join us today, so I'm filling in. But still have a lot of good information to share about NodeZero. Horizon 3 is the company, NodeZero is the platform. And when we're working with security practitioners, they have the hardest question to answer. And that question is, are you secure? Right? That's what they do every day. They get asked the questions, are we secure? It's really hard to answer that question because either A, you get hacked and then you could definitively answer the question that you were not secure, right? Or you run a pen test. There's really no other way to definitively tell whether or not you're secure. So here, we know that pen testing is the gold standard for security validation. In this particular case, a pen tester would be very skilled at using precision to go through your network to find where your vulnerabilities and your weaknesses are, right? They would use methods to make sure they weren't detected, and then they find those areas to exploit. It's a big problem with pen testing, is that it's limited by humans. So one, it's a snapshot in time, because they only have so much time to execute. Typically, companies will get it once a year, twice a year, quarterly if you have a mandate for it. Usually the scope is very narrow because we're just looking at crown jewels, right? We only have so much time and money and effort, so we're just gonna look at a small area of our network. And then you also have sort of this unknown pen tester skill, right? There's a wide range. Some pen testers are excellent, some might not be so much. So pen testing is our gold standard, yet it's very limited, and most of the time our environment is just 5%, right, when we're pen testing. And it's just that point in time. So the idea here, our founders thought, if I could, they were practitioners, if I could pen test on a regular basis, right, developing a tool that would allow you to, a SaaS-based tool that would allow you to comprehensively, large scope, and continuously pen test on a regular basis and not be limited by humans. The idea here was, if I have a patch Tuesday, why don't I have a pen test Wednesday? Why don't I have a time where I can test all the changes that I made the day before? So NodeZero pulls you away from the checklists of vulnerabilities and really looks at your entire infrastructure and all the potential weaknesses. So not just vulnerabilities, but misconfigurations, default configurations, weak passwords, putting them all together like a really high precision skilled pen tester would do. We do it within the platform. So full visibility, precision, prioritization. So I'm not just looking at like, what are my critical vulnerabilities? I'm actually telling you what's exploitable because we have exploited it. Shorter exposure windows. So I know when something happens, I can very quickly see if I'm at risk or exposed. And then proof of security ROI. I know very quickly that my security tools are or are not working. And I can do all of this without any human interaction. We do it from the tool. So, I was asked, I realize my slides are a little bit off here, but I was asked just to point out some of the places where we're using AI, machine learning, LLMs, and that Markov machine is really the heart of NodeZero, and that's what allows us to learn and determine what the next best attack is. The way NodeZero works is a lot like chess, right? With chess, when we sit down, we look at the board, we look at all of our options, we assess our options, and then we make the next best move, right? In this particular case, we're making decisions based upon what we've learned. The LLMs are something that we're really investing in for sort of that customer experience. So when we do find weaknesses, we don't just want to point at you and go, you're bad, you've done this wrong. We actually want to provide fix actions to go along with all of the exploits that we find. So being able to have that robust solution, that remediation solution that says not just, hey, we were able to get domain compromise, but now if you take these fix actions, you can reduce 34% of your attack path. So a lot of that is learned, and we're keeping it and making it robust through those LLMs and mixing it with our real world data. And then just the best-in-class decision-making machine, right? Knowing how to navigate. We've got over 3,000 customers, again, learning on a constant basis what the best attack path is, and then also allows us to stay on top of the evolving threats. So I thought I would just use this time to kind of walk through what the anatomy of an attack is, which gives you an understanding of just how powerful the tool is. So it's a lot going on here. I'll walk through it, but oh, you know what's not going to let me do is, so typically this is about 4 slides on top of each other right now, so that's why it looks even more confusing, but the user interface is actually really beautiful. So I'm just going to I'll walk through the bottom. If you can't hear me, just raise your hand, but really just kind of following along in the bottom path, because the top is just the zoom in, if you could go through the slide. So that first far left node is really where our platform drops into the environment. We assume breach. So we assume breach, right? Because if an attacker wants to get into your environment, they will get in, right? It doesn't really matter how they got in, but they'll get in. Whether it's phishing or whether they've used an exploit, but they'll get into your environment. We drop in NodeZero, no known information about your network, right? Goes in unknown. The first thing it does, enumeration. It takes a look around, kind of like that chess game, like what are all the moves, my potential moves? No human action, no previous knowledge. It looks at the network. In this particular case, and by the way, this is a real world attack, we just anonymized, it found a DNS misconfiguration with multicast. So basically what that means is NodeZero says, hey everyone, I'm server 1. Someone says, hey, I want to log into server 1, here's my user ID and hash, right? So we just keep doing that. And we just keep collecting and corralling user IDs and hash until we eventually get enough that we can send it off to our GPU farm and crack the password. Typically, we crack passwords in less than 5 minutes when we have enough usernames and hashes. I say we, this is all autonomously through our platform. Once we have a known user ID and password, no elevated privileges, it then looks through all of the available exploits. It finds one, in this particular case, it was Print Nightmare. There are thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of exploits to look through. So being able to do this at machine speed is really critical. We very quickly find a vulnerability called Print Nightmare, which all I need is a username and password, and I can then get host compromise. It's a little bit hard to see. All of that happens in about 15 minutes. It would take a pen tester potentially a week. So once we get domain compromise, I'm then going to look around, see what else can I do. I'm going to keep doing that and getting domain compromise. I eventually get to a point where I can do a remote access tool. I can drop what we call a rat. Basically, it's just a small little piece of malicious code that allows me to do executables. Once I do that, I'm going to keep moving through until I eventually get more machines, and then I find a machine that has a misconfiguration with a data protection API, and then I can dump all these credentials. That allows me to get to more machines. So all of this is a path that just keeps happening until we eventually get to machine, and the objective here for this particular attack was to find a machine that's running the Slack desktop application. Once I have host compromise, so I don't need domain compromise in this particular case, just host compromise and it's running the desktop app, I can then get your Slack authentication token, and now I can log in as you on any machine and get all of everything that you have access to in Slack, I now have access to, or our platform now has access to. Files, data. Imagine once you're Ellen, as in Slack, all of my colleagues get a message from me and a link. Do they trust it? Of course, it's Slack. It's Ellen. Of course I'm going to click on it. So lateral movement then becomes exponential at that point. By the way, if you saw Disney's hack in the news, this is the exact same hack that happened. This is how they got in all the Disney information and scripts and all of those. Key point here. We made our way all the way through here in 2 days. This could take pen testers months, but in 2 days, no human intervention. All of this was an autonomous attack that happened just by learning and no previous knowledge. So the idea of this is then to take all of this information, bring it back to our customers, couple it with the LLMs to be able to say, in order to fix this, here are the key points, here are the key items that you need to fix to stop this attack path. And I'll almost say more importantly, we'll show them this is where we beat your EDR. This is where your SIM didn't pick this up. All of your defense tools that you've spent millions of dollars on, we'll be able to show them exactly where we were able to beat them. So our ultimate goal is to have offense drive and really inform defense and make your security tools stronger. So I think that's my 10 minutes. Unfortunately, I have to run, but you can find us, Horizon 3. Please visit us online. There's a lot more information, a bunch of different attack paths. But the whole idea is really to do this as fast as possible because the attackers are just getting faster, and we want to fight machines with machines.